What is up, everybody? Welcome back to the Deep Ruts podcast. My name is Brandon, and today I have with me John Dietrich.
Hello, everyone.
John is here, and we're going to talk a little bit about his life. If you're not familiar with our podcast, this is designed to interview the members of Dayton, Ohio Toyota off-road enthusiasts and kind of learn a little bit more about their life, how they got into off-roading, and also how they became a member of the group. So John has been in our group a long time, but kind of a unique story. So let's talk a little bit about that, John. Let's get right into it.
All right, let's do it. So pretty much when not long after Brandon had started the group, uh, he had invited me on some camping trips and rides, and I wasn't into the off-roading at the time, and it pretty much evolved into me wanting to go outdoors and camping, and then eventually I bought a 4Runner and started going on some trail rides.
Yeah. So, but it's been fun. It was fun to get you out there initially on the trails. He has talked me into a lot of hiking situations that I didn't necessarily want to do, but he pushed me a little bit, and I, in turn, have pushed him to do a little bit of the off-roading. So, also, something that we do here on our show is we choose a bourbon and we have a drink while we do this. I say this on every episode, but we do not advocate for like drinking on the trails and doing things like that. We understand there is a time and place for that, and this podcast is one of those times and places. But today, John is not a huge bourbon enthusiast. I gave him the choice to pick a beer or an IPA or something, and he still chose a bourbon, or had me choose a bourbon. And I chose two. So the one that is actually in the glass is Redwood Empire, and that is based upon the outdoor vibe of that bourbon. Their marketing is all outdoor oriented, and John is a very outdoor person, likes to hike and stuff, so that's kind of why I chose that one. The other one we have on the table is Pigeon River, and this is actually a distillery in Tennessee, kind of like a craft distillery, and this is actually a Tennessee sour mash whiskey. John actually bought me this for my birthday a few years ago, or a couple years ago, but we're going to drink a little bit of that today as well. So let's go ahead and give it some smells.
Mm-hmm.
Smells sweet. This has been sitting here for a few minutes now as we kind of got our stuff ready. But
oh, that's good. Smooth.
Yeah,
I like it.
Mm-hmm. So this one is Pipe Dream. This is actually the only one I've had by them. So, but I do like that one. I've clearly drank quite a bit of it. So, but I have a little bit of bourbon, and I allow people to kind of choose a bottle as we go through this, and share a drink with them and create memories. I think that's all part of it. So, talking a little bit about Dew Tour and John being the outdoor person. How did you get that love for doing outdoor stuff? Like, where did that come from? Is that something you did as a kid, or were you in Boy Scouts? Like, how did all that come?
I think it was, just from childhood. Not necessarily anything organized. I never did Boy Scouts or anything like that. But it's kind of just being a kid of the 90s and spending, every waking hour of daylight out playing with friends in different ways,
Yeah.
turning over rocks and creeks and riding bikes and all that fun stuff. And that eventually turned into a lot of skateboarding and BMX when I was a little older, and it was kind of more in my adult life that I got into more hiking and camping and fishing and off-roading and all that stuff.
Yeah. And so John and I are about the same age. We actually went to school together, graduated the same year. Didn't talk a whole lot in high school or anything. Where did we actually start hanging out a lot?
Well, we got a lot of mutual friends.
Yeah.
So there's that, and your homeroom was right next to mine.
Yeah.
So we didn't talk a lot. It was often because we saw each other a lot there.
Yeah.
But, I think we got a lot closer, well after high school with just, all of our mutual friends and hanging out.
I think it was also softball, wasn't it?
Softball was another one.
Yeah, because we started playing. You started playing on our
Yeah.
team, and I saw you every week and stuff.
Oh,
I think that's definitely probably where we started hanging out more outside of like your
Yeah.
standard activities. But
Yeah.
So yeah, and like I said, we talked a little bit about the hiking and the fishing and stuff like that, and we do quite a bit of that. If anybody's watching this, they like to hike and fish, and you ever want to go on a trip or something, hit us up. I mean, we're doing stuff all throughout the year, and we're always looking to add somebody and come out and have fun with us. So.
Oh yeah.
Always open to different locations and things like that. It's fun to get out there and kind of explore a little bit. So, um, talking about the 90s and a child of the 90s was obviously pretty fun. We got to experience a lot of stuff, but what are like some of your favorite memories from your childhood? And it doesn't necessarily have to be like folklore kind of stuff. It could be family related, whatever it might be. Like talk about some of your favorite stuff.
Oh, I don't know. Let's see. There was I'd say, when I look back on my childhood, some of the things that just stick with me were just running around as a kid, playing in the creeks nearby, catching snakes, keeping them for a while. At one point we had a pet duckling that we had found
Yeah, that's
that
cool.
had no mother around, so we tried raising that and releasing it, and you know not sure if it made it, but that was fun. Just stuff like that, like big animal lover when I was a kid, and just catching bugs and snakes and stuff like that was just you know a favorite pastime.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And so I know you have some siblings. Siblings are pretty close in age, kind of. Did you do a lot of stuff with them, or were you kind of more a loner, or were you out with like your friends, or how did that kind of look?
Oh, it was a little of all of the above. My brother's a few years older, but we played a lot of sports. I never really played any organized sports growing up, but I was always playing backyard sports, football, baseball, basketball, and me and my brother did a lot of that. He wasn't into the skateboarding and BMX stuff,
Yeah,
so not a lot of that. But yeah, I mean, we were always running around together as kids and playing different stuff.
yeah.
Yeah,
And then sister as well, right?
yeah,
So,
yeah.
and sister's younger, right?
Yeah, younger sister. Yeah,
Okay.
she lives in North Carolina now, doing well out there. And
Yeah. So, what from there did you after school and everything? Did you go to college? Did you do any of that?
I did a little bit of college. Went to UC, and you know, when I was 18 years old, school just wasn't the thing for me. So I didn't last very long there, and moved back in at home for just a few months, and then got a house with a couple friends of mine, and started working, and been working ever since.
Yeah. So, what was your first job? What was the first thing you did?
My first job in high school was kind of this under the table job with a realtor, and I had a Sonoma, so I would move stuff around for her showings, do a little landscape work, that kind of thing. Did that for about a year, and then worked at Casano's call center for a couple years, which was a great job to be in high school,
Yeah.
to have in high school.
And I worked at Casano's later in my life. I think I was like 21 or 2, maybe even a little bit younger than that. But um, so that is another thing that we kind of share that we have done. But
Yeah.
um, so going from there, you landscaped next. Was that how that kind of worked?
Yeah, basically. Started landscaping and had a couple odd jobs in between. I was a lube and tire tech at Big O Tires for one winter, and didn't love that.
Yeah.
I'm sure I would have if I was able to do more than just oil changes and tires, but went back to landscaping and did that for about 10, 12 years, until a friend of mine who was working at a kind of small mom and pop machine shop said there was a job opening there, and so I decided to go over there, and I never worked in manufacturing or anything like that. So I was only there for a few months, but the amount of stuff I learned there was just pretty incredible. Just seeing raw materials coming in, and like military trailers and stuff going out was a pretty cool process to see.
Yeah. And we landscaped together too, worked at Lunny together.
Yeah.
Where so after the manufacturing job, is that where you're at now, or did you have another job in between
No,
there?
so I was only working there a few months, and had just gotten in the door, so with no real experience in that field, I wasn't making a ton of money there. And a friend of my old boss from the landscape company had heard I wasn't working at the landscape company anymore, and he said, would you consider coming on to be the warehouse manager? He runs a educational publishing company. And so I looked at it, and it was wasn't looking for any kind of change, but it was quite the upgrade as far as the pay goes and stuff like that. So I decided to take the leap there, even though I was very much enjoying the machine shop there. And that was in 2017, I believe, and been there ever since. It's a great company to work for. Just a great job to have.
Yeah. And we've had the opportunity to talk about that on rides down several times about some of the fun projects you've had at work. Um, talking about you guys have building the gym and you've done a lot of stuff inside the shop too. So
Yeah.
it's cool to be involved in those kind of projects. Is there something that is like your favorite thing about your job?
Uh, I would say just the fact that management is so employee focused. Like you mentioned, the gym that we built in there, we've got a big lounge area. They want to provide a place that is just the employees want to be there, and they're doing a great job of that. And it's just a you know great all around place to be.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. Um, so we've talked about a lot already. Let's talk a little bit about um, that step that you took in getting into off-roading and stuff. So we talked about your Tacoma. You had the Sonoma
No
prior.
Tacoma.
Oh, I'm sorry. We
Well,
talked. We talked about your Camry. Um, and you had the Sonoma prior to that. So, what other vehicles have you owned? Was that it?
oh, I've had a few in between. Yeah, my first vehicle was a powder blue '91 Sonoma. Uh, Great little truck. Had the 2.5 Iron Duke engine, that are unbreakable, but I managed to break it many times. Actually, that was when I had that vehicle. That was my dipping my toes into off roading. There was a uh, there was a spot behind the Super Walmart in Moraine that, come to find out years later, is a super fun site. But it had some trails that went back through it, and a big mud hole at the bottom, and that thing was just a two-wheel drive, really light rear end. So I just found out that if you just go fast enough through stuff, you can get through it. But I got stuck a lot doing that. That was just some fun we had in high school. Didn't modify vehicles or anything like that, but had some fun doing that. Ran that truck, sufficiently into the ground, and drove a Ford Ranger for a little while after that, and a '88 GMC Gypsy, it was called, but it was a fully loaded '88. It had the original paperwork in the glove box. It was I think like 14,500 brand new. Um, that didn't last very long. It was frame rust, just kind of
Ah,
all around rust bucket. I've had a few other beaters in between. In a Suzu Amigo that was actually pretty fun. It was, soft top in the back, kind of kept it
yeah.
off. Had rubber flooring in it, so it could rain in there, and it was fine. And then got the Camry in 2011 and drove that for 10 years. It was just a great. That is what made me fall in love with Toyotas, was the reliability of that thing. I
Yeah.
mean, the gas mileage you got, the lack of problems, a few things here or there over a decade, but uh, it was just a great car that I still have to this day. Um, it The clutch had gone out in it, and I was already thinking about upgrading, and so I start looking around, and a coworker of mine actually has a fourth gen like mine. He had seen this one advertised at a dealership down in Cincinnati, and it only had 115,000 miles on it. I thought, well, now's as good a time as any, because I was driving a loaner car, and this thing popped up. So I went down, looked at it, and pretty much knew I was going to buy it right away. But decided to sleep on it, look around a little, and went back the next day and picked it up.
Yeah. Now, do you think having been around our group and hanging out with us, because those early days, obviously, you were coming down to the gorge and we would go do the rides during the day and you would take the Camry and you go hike or do whatever.
Yeah.
So, do you think this
So,
influenced that a little bit, or do you think it was just your coworker having one and you seeing it all the
oh no, it
time?
was
Or
absolutely Brandon and the group. No, it was I had the Toyota love before that, but the off road, not so much, not something I really thought about. And yeah, it was wanting to get out and just be a little more capable. I was honestly looking at maybe getting a Subaru even, or just something that was all-wheel drive or four-wheel drive. And Brandon's influence steered me into a Toyota off-road vehicle for sure.
yeah,
Uh,
way cooler than Subarus. No
yeah,
offense to you
definitely.
Subaru people,
But I
but
but I have kind of drug my feet a little bit with it. When I got it, I was like, I'm not doing anything to it. I'm not taking it off road. And Brandon's like, oh yeah,
we'll
I
see.
don't believe that.
We'll
And
see.
he was right.
And this is also like the first vehicle you've modified, really, then.
Oh
So,
yeah, yeah,
and you've
definitely
obviously not a ton of stuff, but you've done quite a few things: wheels, tires,
done a few
different
things.
suspension. We just filmed the rig. We did the walk around for that. So, if you haven't already, be sure to check that out when you're done here. Um, but it was really cool watching you go through like that transition from coming down and still hanging out with us at the gorge and stuff and going and do hiking. A lot of those trips, like we would go down a day earlier and we would go hike a trail or something, and then he would follow us to camp and he would go hit some different trails. If you're not familiar, the hiking system in the trail or the trails in the gorge are really, really fantastic. There's a lot of great hiking down there. So talk about the first couple times that you off-roaded with me then, because you came in my truck a couple times and just kind of, I think, was it one time I think I took you like Hell Creek Road in a couple places,
Yeah,
right? And then you came on one of the actual rides that I was registered for with Kentucky Land Cruiser Association, right?
yeah. I'm
Okay.
not I'm not sure of the time in between those two things, but yeah, the first time I ever came down to the gorge, I think it was late 2020. I believe Brandon's wife had planned a kayak trip to the underground kayaking with some coworkers, and you had invited me to come along. And I think that trip had fallen through,
Yeah.
but Brandon and I decided to just go the two of us anyway. And we stayed at the Kuma Ridge State Park
Yeah, that's
campground
right. Kimmer Ridge.
and just started exploring some stuff around there. I think that was more hiking and
Yeah.
camping,
Yeah.
but we did go to Hell Creek Road and maybe a couple other around there. And that was the first time I'd been on any trails down there.
Yeah, and at that point, like I hadn't done a whole lot. I mean, I've been Haspin Acres a couple times, but my truck was pretty stock still, so
Yeah.
it was still kind of scary if you get out on those trails. And um, like Hell Creek Road and stuff is not. I mean, it is intimidating if you've never done that before, and we were certainly intimidated. I think that trip, but
Oh,
now
definitely.
you look at it and you're like, oh yeah, that's like nothing. You know what I mean? It's
Yeah.
just like a gravel road basically. There are a couple bumps here and there, but it was super cool. And I remember that excitement of going through some
Yeah.
of those super shallow creek beds, but it was
Yeah.
still like exciting. You're like, oh man, I'm driving through a creek right now.
Oh,
And I
even
remember
just
that being
some of
super
the
fun.
hills, just I thought, oh, we're gonna slide right down
Yeah,
this, and
yeah,
now it's just those are the easy parts now.
yeah. So off-road related, you also have a dirt bike that you play
Oh
around a little
yes,
bit on.
yeah, I
Yeah.
do. Yeah, we I have a dirt bike that I bought off a friend of mine who just keeps buying them and wanting more, and we have just a small spot near his house we kind of putt around on. But I'm by no means a dirt biker who does very dangerous stuff.
Yeah.
Although those things are very dangerous just in and of themselves.
Yeah.
But
So aside from that, obviously you like to hike. We talked that you like to fish. Um, John hits me up a lot to fish throughout the summer.
yeah,
He's an advocate. Or I shouldn't say an advocate. You are a enthusiast, I guess, when it comes
yeah,
to
sure,
fishing as well.
yeah, absolutely.
Talk a little bit about that, and why is that so joyful for you?
Well, I'd say I started fishing back in high school. Me and friends would just, hit around local ponds and stuff like that. It's just something fun to do outside. wasn't something I took super seriously. Didn't go down the gear rabbit holes of finding all the best stuff. It was just something we went out and did, and kind of fell off for a while. Through my 20s and stuff, and then I picked up a kayak used off of some guy and started taking the kayak out, and it kind of got a little repetitive just taking the kayak out, so I started fishing again and just fell in love with catching smallmouth in local rivers. Smallmouth fishing in the rivers around here is just so much fun,
Yeah.
and uh, getting out there, seeing all the different wildlife. The rivers are a lot healthier than they were in past decades, so that's why we see a lot of the bald eagles and stuff like that now. So it's a cool experience each time I go out.
Yeah. And we definitely have a great area for that. Like our river system, not only in Ohio, but specifically where we're at in the Miami Valley, a lot of those rivers come together and create
Yeah.
some pretty awesome outlets and stuff for fishing. Um, so let's go back to Dew Tour a little bit and talk a little bit about this. Is a question I ask people almost every episode.
Mhm.
What is your favorite Dew Tour memory? What is when you think about Dew Tour, what do you think about?
I'd have to say my favorite memory, and I've heard this story mentioned a couple times so far, was the last hour or so of our Windrock ride, trying to make it out to the Carrierville Flats. So we had reached kind of the northern part of the park, and it was a decent way back to camp for everyone from there. So everyone that was kind of ready to be done for the day headed back, and there were, I think, 5 of us that decided to try to catch the sunset at Carrierville Flats. Well, the Windrock map is great, but not perfect. And so one of those green trails that we thought would take us to the flats, it was not a green trail. It was at one point, but some erosion made a very large rut down the side of it. And we made it through a couple tight spots, and then Jeff had slid into that rut. And it's getting dark at that point. We're not super familiar with the area. At this
Yeah.
point, we're kind of winging it because we hadn't scouted any of these trails.
Oh, we had been at it for hours at this point, like
Yeah.
hours upon hours.
And
So
so we go, or Jeff gets stuck, and we're there a couple minutes, and then we hear some side by sides come down the trail, and it just kind of added a little stress to the situation. And so I ran up and talked to them and said, "Hey guys, we're blocking the trail, stuck down there. It's going to take us a few minutes." And they were super nice and said, "Oh yeah, take your time. Let us know if you need any help." So that was a relief, and then we had to figure out how to pull Jeff out, and I happened to be in the front, and so I kind of dead pulled Jeff out of the rut. We got him out, but then we had to still go by the tree that he had fallen in from, and got him out, got him past that. I had to get past that. Then we had to turn around, and so it was just a pretty high
yeah,
stress situation. And when we had turned around, I mean, through the expertise of Jeremy, shout out. I mean, he helped us out so much in that, getting us turned around and pulled out and everything, and just quick with everything. And so once we had turned around and made it back to pavement, it was just we had all gotten out, big group hug, sigh of relief, and yeah, that's just something I think about a lot.
yeah, for sure. That was, and I don't remember if I was next in line or like who else was in line in front of me, but I there was no way I was making that trail. Judy was way too big to make it any further than that, and
And I kind of knew that when I'd passed that skinny part and
yeah,
barely made it through. And I'm just a little bit smaller than Jeff's Tacoma, and I think that's why.
yeah,
And
yeah. The least modified truck made it through, or rig made it through. So, um,
yeah,
but yeah, that was a great memory, and I think Kevin was trying to get to us that entire time too. We were trying to all meet at
that
the
was
flats,
Gort.
and it was
Kevin told
just
that story.
that was a very tough. Like it's not always the fun you made it to your destination stories that you hear about. Sometimes you don't make it to that destination because there's down trees or there's some other obstacles or something breaks. things happen out on the trails. And, one of the great things about our group is we come together and we solve that, and we get out of there, as a whole. So you talk about like Jeremy helping get everybody turned around, and you pulled out Jeff with the kinetic rope. Like, we made all of that stuff happen.
Yeah.
Now, I was also pretty fortunate that we had done recovery class right before that.
Oh,
So
absolutely.
every year we do a recovery day, educational event, but allows you to be hands on, test your recovery gear, use winches, and actually pull vehicles out of creeks and things like that. So, a very fun event. It's a day full of things like that, learning everything about it, whether you don't know anything about a shackle, to all the way up to just using kinetic ropes and solutions like that if you don't have a winch. So you learn a lot. It's a fun experience, but also a very knowledgeable one to have. So that I was very fortunate that we had done that. Shout out to Ryan, who makes all that happen for us. But looking forward to another one coming up here in a couple months. But we're planning another Windrock ride this year. It's going to be a little later in the year, in the summer. Excited to go back. I think this time we'll reach the flat somehow. We'll get there.
Yeah.
Um,
Maybe take pavement this time.
yeah, and
Yeah.
I think like that trip as a whole was so fun, man. Like, we went to like Radar Base or whatever. How
Hmm.
fun was that? Like, going over, like you were talking about, erosion is everywhere there. Like, there used to be a blacktop road that led to this base that had all these different radar towers and stuff, and that road had eroded
Yeah.
basically completely away. So you're driving over this blacktop that all of a sudden now there's a 4 foot jump in front of you,
It turned
and
an
you
old
have to.
asphalt road into kind of a rock garden.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
was super fun to see that, but none of us were expecting that, and there were several vehicles, including yours, that were not heavily modified that still made that without any damage. So that story, on the other hand, is one that shows success. We made it to our location and had a lot of fun doing that. But when we talk about our rides and putting together these registered events, John and I are typically two of the people that are out there scouting these trails in advance. So John and I have done hundred of miles off trails. And while that doesn't sound like a lot when you're on pavement, when you're on the trails, it takes a while
Yeah.
to go through situations like that. So I'm very thankful that you've been able to come along and help out in those situations. I think that has heightened your education quite a bit and learning to off road.
Absolutely.
And it's just fun. There's a lot that goes into it, and if we didn't do that kind of stuff, we could be in worse situations trying to turn around a group of 20 in that situation where Jeff was stuck, which would have been damn near impossible.
Oh
So
yeah.
um it is really fun to go on these rides, and but sometimes when things like that happen, or somebody gets stuck and people are like, I just want to go home. Sometimes you got to stick it through. You got to be able to get through that situation, and help each other out. And that's kind of what we're all about. So, um, what do you want to see kind of in the future for Dew Tour? Is there something specific that you want to see more of, or a certain type of event that you want to see happen?
I don't know if there's anything specific. My experience in the group, I've just been along for the ride and learning stuff and meeting great people. I love to just see, the different events we've kind of expanded on. I love the kayak trips and stuff like that. Recovery day is great. I just like to see more of the same as we grow. The camaraderie with everyone. Met a lot of people. Uh, Shout out to Jeremy and Tori on hosting events. I've never been to an event at their place without that wasn't just a blast. It's always so much fun out there. Learned so much out there on Recovery Day. That's been great.
Go ahead and move on to our Pigeon
Oh,
River
okay,
there.
there we
But yeah,
go.
I would agree. I mean, their hospitality is amazing. They're always willing to help out, and going to be trying to make
Thank you.
some banners and stuff actually for the upcoming off road expo that we're going to be involved in.
Nice.
and Tori's actually going to help me make all that stuff happen. So they're always a huge help. Whether it comes to making T-shirts or hosting events or whatever it might be, and that's truly what our group is kind of about. There's a lot of people that go above and beyond to help out in those scenarios. Um, John leading trails, you know what I mean,
Yeah.
or leading rides. You've got Jeremy hosting events. You've got Kevin helping out if something breaks on the trails. You've got Jeff doing things and helping donate things for, with his creations for raffles and things like that. So, however it is you're involved, I really do appreciate that. And I think that is why our group is so different than most. All of us coming together and, just kind of being friends, I think that's super important. And I've said this a lot, and I'll continue to say it, but you never know, you might meet your next best friend. And I
Absolutely.
think that, it's held true with some people. Even, yesterday we actually had a do tour event in the morning. We did do tour and donuts. And it was cool to see new people come out and kind of talk, and you're just kind of standing off to the side and you see people having their conversations, and it's cool to watch those, friendships form. So, um, you know, the the growth of Dew Tour is different for many different people, and they kind of see that in different ways. Some people talk about bigger trips and going out west. Some people talk about having a clubhouse or something like that. Um, but I think any of that can be true, as long as we continue to focus on the important stuff. I want to do more community facing stuff. I want to try to be able to do more food drives and toy drives. And if you see our event list for this year, you're going to see things like that on it. I want to be able to give back to our community. That's something that's very important to me. So I'm looking forward to creating more memories with all of you. But John, I've asked this question a lot too. We talk a little bit about your day to day. What does a normal day look like for you?
Normal day for me. Work a pretty normal schedule. 7:30 to 4, Monday through Friday. Kind of just get up, shower, get ready for work, uh, drink a protein shake, and head to work. It's kind of it.
Work day.
Work day, and then oh yeah, I do enjoy working out a lot. A little bit of a gym rat, so most days you can find me either in the gym after work or maybe going for a run. Um, but yeah, it's pretty typical Monday through Friday for me.
So I feel like I may know the answer to this kind of, but on an off day, like what is your ideal day off? Like what are you wanting to do? Like for example, say it's going to be a beautiful weekend, you're going to have the whole weekend off, or maybe it's a 4-day weekend. What are you doing on that weekend?
Well, yes. I was going to say it depends on the weather because
Yeah.
typically it's something outside. One of my favorite things to do on an off day is get up very early and put the kayak in the river and go fishing. Um, Spending the first few hours out on the river in the morning is just great. It's kind of my favorite thing. Just peaceful, not people out, especially on a Sunday morning. Um, just the wildlife you see, and you know the pristine nature that only Dayton, Ohio can provide.
Yeah.
You know, uh, it does have its. There's just pockets all over that are pristine and beautiful.
Yeah.
Love
Yeah,
being out
it's
in it.
we've done that a couple of times, getting out early and fishing, and we went to Cowan Lake
Hmm.
like recently this past year, and
Yeah.
we were there super early. Sunrise is coming up over the lake and stuff, and there's only a couple vehicles in the entire parking lot, but it is super fun to be out there, be the first person on the lake fishing.
When a lake
It's
is glass and you're on a kayak, it's very nice.
Yeah,
You
you get
know.
that reflection and everything just looks so pretty. But so taking that a step further and talking a little bit about if money and time wasn't an issue, what would your like ideal vacation be? If you could do whatever you wanted, what would you do?
Oh, that's not something I've thought a lot about. But if a couple things come to mind, I think an overlanding trip of the Australian outback would be an amazing experience. terrifying but amazing.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
know, I'm sure with the right crew and know-how, you could do something like that. But that would be pretty amazing. Just exploring in Alaska, like Kevin had said, an Alaskan cruise would be amazing, or whatever it would be in Alaska. Just rugged nature would be what I would say, wherever that may be.
yeah,
You know, that's kind of my ideal vacation. Is definitely more of a exploring mountains, that kind of thing, over not as much of a beach goer.
yeah, yeah. I'm with you. That's like you can only do so much on the beach, in my opinion.
I love the beach.
Like
The ocean's
I can do like a
beautiful. Don't
day,
get me
but
wrong.
as soon as I start getting burnt, man, I'm like, I'm kind of
Yeah,
done. I'm
yeah.
like, all right,
I know what
put
you
me in the
mean.
woods in the shade and do some stuff
Yeah.
like that. But yeah, for sure. So thinking a little bit about further down in life, where do you kind of see yourself going from here? Do you think you'll stay with this company a long time that you work for now? Is there something that you're working up towards? Are you a certain career you want, or what does your future kind of look like? What kind
Okay.
of stuff
Yeah.
do you want to accomplish?
Well, as far as the company I work for, I've got no plans of looking anywhere else. I kind of love where I'm at and don't see myself leaving for a very long time. I would say I've got pretty simple tastes as far as that goes. I want, wouldn't mind having a decent plot of land to kind of do whatever I want on. I see myself building a house for myself, and just kind of living on as much as I can, make my property feel like nature, and big workshop and garage, and yeah, I kind of you know let life come to me more than um, seeking much out, because I know I know what I like and don't like, and don't have too high aspirations for that kind of
Yeah,
thing. Simple things like nice property to live on, nice off-road vehicle to hit trails.
yeah. What are the
Time to spend doing my hobbies and
Yeah,
stuff.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. That's good. Future plans for this. What do you got going on?
Ah, I think next move is definitely sliders. Sliders and probably skids, maybe a winch. We'll see. But yeah, I definitely need to protect this thing a little more, because it's just so capable. Even almost stock, it's just so capable that I've gotten myself into some pretty sticky situations, and having some extra armor is what I need to do. Some bumpers eventually, but it's my daily driver, so I'm not you know too gung ho about upgrading too much too
Yeah,
fast. Kind of want to keep it, somewhat stealthy, and not, you know, throw 600 pounds of armor on it yet,
yeah.
and all that.
It'll change your gas mileage for sure.
Yeah.
So when we talk about like camping and things like that, there are several different ways that we camp, but a lot of times we're on the trail or it's cold weather, off-roading trips. A lot of times you sleep inside this, and in the rig we showed like your platform
Hmm.
system. I know you haven't been extremely happy with how that's built. Like you like it, but you want to make some changes and stuff. So
Yeah.
talk a little bit about that and why you want to change that.
Oh, sure. So that I made out of some skid wood and some stuff. Don't have much money in it, and kind of was just building it on the fly. Sleeping in the back of this without anything. The seats fold down, but they fold at an angle, so I needed to flatten it out. And saw a lot of drawer systems and stuff like that, and was kind of going in that direction with some storage underneath. But then once I got to it, it was like, I don't need the drawers to pull out. I want this to be just relatively simple, just something to have a nice level sleeping platform, be able to fold the seats down, fold them back up, it fit back there, and also be secure. And so kind of just it checked all the boxes of being flat, being secure, and not looking terrible. Like, it's kind of nice that the Home Depot carpet matches my interior pretty well.
Yeah.
Um, but there's a few issues with it, like the storage. You can't get into anything while you're inside there camping. So if it's cold out, you can open up the hatch and get in that way. I don't love the amount of headroom once it's on there. I'd probably redesign it being a little lower with less storage and just figure out storage elsewhere, because you can't really sit up in there. But just a few things like that. But it's kind of fun to build something like that. So I could see myself building another iteration of it, and then upgrading that a couple years later, even.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's fun, especially like doing it yourself and, having that rewarding
Yeah.
aspect, like
That's actually something that the group has re-inspired with me is I used to back in high school and early on, when something broke on my truck or vehicle, I'd fix it myself, mostly because I had to. I couldn't afford to pay anyone to do it. um, and as I got a little older, I like doing that less and less. You always end up with a broken bolt or a tool you don't have, and this and that. And luckily for me, a good friend of mine is a great mechanic and started his own shop, True Care Auto Repair in Moraine. Shout out. Um, and so I just took it to him for years. And being in the group, and it kind of inspired me to be a little more hands on with my vehicle maintenance and stuff like that. Uh, you know, I've replaced my brakes, I've replaced axles, I've started doing a lot of stuff myself, and it kind of reignited the, like, oh, I really like doing that, especially when I have the right
yeah,
tools. And a friend I can always just tow it to his shop if I need to,
yeah. For like
and
the
all
bigger
that.
projects,
Yeah.
absolutely, man.
So.
The Speaking of breaking axles,
Oh
we
yeah.
broke one of
I
your
I
axles.
suppose I could talk about my first trail ride in this thing. I just put on the suspension, the wheels, the tires, pretty much all the modifications that I've done on this. We're on for a few weeks, and then we did I think it was summer of 2022,
That sounds pretty.
23 maybe. I think it was 20. Nah, one of those
Yeah,
years. Went on my first trail ride, and on the Friday evening scout ride, I broke an axle. And luckily, it wasn't, it was still drivable at that point. And I made it through the rest of Swaz Creek, and made it back to Cali's, and everything was good. And we had sourced another axle from the Advanced Auto Parts in Beattyville. And Brandon and I got up super early the next
yeah,
morning because we had the trail ride the next day, and picked up the axle, brought it back. By the time I got back, Kevin and Jeremy, like, shout out to those guys, had stuff taken apart. They were ready to go. It was the fastest axle replacement I've ever seen. Was not expecting that. It was just it was kind of amazing how everyone just helped and got it together. And I was back on the trail the next day. It was it was a really cool experience.
yeah. And then we went down there to hike this past summer or past fall.
Oh yes,
And
yes.
where I don't even remember where we did that, but I think you broke your other axle, right?
Yep, yep. Brandon and I kind of spur of the moment decided we want to go down to the gorge for the night, and so we just went and hiked. Oh, that was we
That
went
was
and
when we
hiked
stayed
and
on that
camped at Tar
ridge.
Ridge.
Yeah.
Yes, and so we did a little backpacking and camping. And the next day, I was like, "Yeah, you want to hit a few trails?" We went and did Fixer Lico and New Virginia in that area, and I didn't think about it much, but I still had that Advanced Auto Parts axle on this thing, and just thought, oh, we'll be fine on these couple gravel roads. Well, axle breaks again, and luckily we were just able to get to pavement. I looked at it, I was like, well, I wasn't stuck in 4-wheel drive,
Yeah.
so I thought, yeah, I think it should hold up all the way home, and it did, luckily, and
Yeah.
then. I replaced it with, unfortunately, another Advanced Auto Parts axle because it's really hard to find an OEM Toyota axle for these, but
Yeah.
but now I just keep an extra axle on me, and
So if you've got an extra 4th gen.
Yeah, that'd be
Axel,
great. Yeah,
hit John up.
absolutely.
He's
Yeah,
always looking for them.
please.
So
Yeah,
stashing those parts. But
yeah.
um, yeah, it's cool to think back about those stories and stuff. Now, before we wrap this up, one last question, and this can be someone close to you or somebody that you may not even know, but who has been the biggest influence in your life?
Oh, the biggest influence. I mean, I've had a lot of different influences over the years, of course, but I would say just my parents. I mean, we didn't grow up wealthy by any means or anything like that, but my parents were just great, loving parents who provided a great, healthy, supportive household, and I think that that's just been the biggest impact on kind of everything I do. And yeah, I can't say that there's anyone else that would have a bigger one, although there've been just great ones along the way. You never know when just even a stranger will just say or do something that kind of inspires you or makes
Yeah,
you think differently, and you know
yeah,
just being open-minded for whenever that may come.
yeah. Very well said.
No, thank you.
I think that's great. Well, until next time, I mean, we're going to be doing more of these episodes. Stay tuned for all those upcoming events. That is our cover photo in the Facebook group right now. So be sure to check that out. We would love to see you out at those events, whether you've, off-roaded before or not. We've got the ride for you. Some of those easier rides, such as like Hell Creek Road and the stuff that, we were terrified of in the beginning is, kind of a good place to start. So, we look forward to seeing you out there at those events. And John, I appreciate you coming out, sharing a drink, and
Oh,
having some fun
absolutely.
with me today.
Thanks for having
Um,
me.
but you guys, until next time, let's go places.